well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and then I know that others will jump in. Plus, we are recording this session, so if you have anyone on your chapter staff or anyone that you need to share it with later, it will be available then. So this is going to be a more informal session. I have an agenda, and I'd like to get through all of those things, but I definitely want to take your questions as well. So after I go over a report, I'll stop and ask if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. So I think I will start by saying I'm going to show you some of our live reports as well as some of our static reports. And first, I'm going to start with those static reports. And by static, I mean, these are the reports that Grace uploads, usually around the 5th to the 7th of every month on the website. And then Karen sends you an email that says, hey, your reports are ready to pull. We will do the drop process usually in a couple days. Now, I will say, you're like, why do I need to pull those reports when she sends that email? It is very important in case you want to go back and look at it for that period of time, because whenever she runs the drop process, everyone who expired that month before is going to drop off of your full roster. So it's good to have that snapshot. And I'll kind of go over which reports you should pull at that time. But if you happen to not pull your reports, like if you don't pull your rebate report off of there or the chapter matrix, just send us an email. We pull them as well. So if you ever need a backup, we can provide that. I know a lot of times when there's transition within a chapter or something like that, you're looking for some of that history, and we can definitely provide that. So I'm going to share my screen now. And first, we're going to go over these static reports, like I said, that Grace uploads every month. So can you guys see my chapter report screen here? Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to start, the Gold Coast chapter is the lucky chapter today. It's the reports I'm going to be pulling. But we're going to start with this rebate report right here. This is the report that's going to tell you how much money you will be receiving the following month in your chapter rebate. So this is pretty self-explanatory here. It's going to have the name of the company, when they joined, the renew date, what their membership package is, so the membership type that they have, as well as how much money we received for them and how much money you will receive for them as well. And at the very bottom, there is an overview of those funds there. We don't usually get a lot of questions about this report. This report is pretty self-explanatory, but I will stop here and see if anyone has any questions on the rebate report. All right, so if you're new to reports, this is the one that you'll want to pull whenever Karen says go. And this is going to show you, it'll show you everyone who you're receiving monies for. And that following month, you will get two things. Usually around the 18th to the 21st of the month is when the funds are deposited into your accounts. You will receive an email from our accounting department saying the funds have been deposited. And a little while later, you will receive an email from Grace giving any support that you might need. So say someone accidentally sends a sponsorship check to us, then we will credit it toward your account. Or say someone switches chapters and we need to make an adjustment. All of that support will be there. Any questions so far? Great. The next static report is a chapter replace report. And you can see that the Gold Coast chapter doesn't have this on here, and that's because they didn't have any changes to their community association, to their homeowner leader membership. So what this report is, and I pulled one up so you can see it. It's actually the Bay Area and Central California chapters report here. So this is going to show you if there's a change in one of the homeowner leader memberships. And this would be, you know, that membership that includes up to 15 members for these homeowner leaders. So this is going to show who was added to the membership, which is here. And it's going to show who was removed from the membership. So a lot of times if they have a new election, they will replace those members. Now I want to stop here and make a note that we get questions, well, did these show up on our new member and our expired reports? And the answer is yes and no. So these added ones will show up on your new member roster. These removed ones will not show up on your expired member roster, because a lot of times they have not expired. We're just end dating them or terminating them from the membership. So the added ones will show up on your new member roster. The expired ones most likely will not show up on your expired report. So you'll want to make sure that you pull this so that you can remove these members or move them to like a prospecting email list or something like that. Do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions about this replace report? You will only have this report if you had any changes. So if you don't have one there, you don't have to worry about that. All right, the next one is that I want to talk about is our member type matrix. So this report you may want to use if you're trying to compare where you are as far as percentage of types of memberships with where we are overall. This is going to tell you our overall membership number. You can see 43,132, and it's going to show you the different membership types. Now, I'm going to teach you a cheat that I used whenever I was a chapter executive director on this page. I'll show you where we have a cheat sheet where you can see what all of these acronyms at the top mean. But if you're like me and you just want it super simple, the CAVL is your homeowner leaders. Your IM are your managers, your individual managers. Your M's are your management companies. And then all the rest are business partners. Now, if you'd like to know, like, oh, how many lenders do I have? You know, you can look that up. How many, these are all SPs, are service providers. So if you wanted to know that information, you could pull that from here. However, most of the time, I just needed to know who were business partners, who were managers, who were homeowner leaders, and then, you know, went from there. But I will share with the recording, I will share this handy dandy cheat sheet that we have here that goes over what each of those acronyms at the top of that page mean. So we have those here. We also have down the left side of that report, let me go back to it. Down the left side of this report, this BP, CAVL, CAVLIND, like what do those mean? That is also in that report here. So you can see what those mean. And if you have any questions about those, I know our membership can be quite complex sometimes. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to ask. And then we have our chapter codes. So these are all of our chapters, what their codes are. So maybe you want to compare yourself to another chapter or something, you can do that as well. And I'm about to show you the report you can do that with. Are there any questions about this member type matrix, or is there anyone that uses this and you might want to tell us what you use it for? Again, what I've seen chapters use it for is like finding the what percentage of homeowner leaders they have, and then being able to compare that to what we have internationally.
Emily, this, yeah. the one that you're showing right now, that is not broken down by chapter. That's just showing the membership as a whole.
Right.
So
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show that. But this is if they want to compare to the membership as a whole, they can do that. But this is the report that chapters use the most often. And this is our chapter matrix report. So this is going to break it down by chapter, how many members you have. Maybe you want to compare yourself to a chapter, to a similar size chapter or something like that. When you're talking about membership numbers, when you're presenting to your board of directors at your meetings and things, these are the membership numbers that you will want to go by. So this, you can see Alabama chapter, like I mentioned before, they have 38 homeowner leaders, 92 managers, 14 management companies, and then the rest business partners on this. Do you guys have any, do you all have any questions on this report? This is the report that as a chapter executive director, I like waited for when Karen or Sandra sent the email like, okay, I want to see where I am. And this is the report. Whenever I look at my chapters, I always go straight to this, like, how are we doing? So this is a great report. Any questions? All right, you will see that there is a report here that is missing that we actually took off, and that is the state matrix report. So you guys can tell me now if that's something you used. I found that it was more confusing to chapters than not. So we decided to take that down. What the chapter matrix actually showed is anyone in that state who had an address in that state. So they could actually be, have a Nevada address, be members of one of the California chapters, so they would show up under Nevada as the state. So it wasn't always very useful to the chapters, so we took that down. Again, if you're like, no, I use that and I want that, please reach out to me and we'll be glad to consider either sharing it with you separately or putting it back up there. Is there anything on any of these reports that you all have comments on or anything that you use them for? All right, so those are our static reports. Now I'm going to move to our live reports. Now, these, I want to reiterate that these live reports are pulled directly from our database in real time. So these are always changing. So you may pull your report on, let's see, June 14th, and then you pull it again 2 days later, it's going to be different because you've added new members and things like that. So these pulled, again, they pull directly from our database and they're always changing. So the first report I'm going to show you on the live reports is our designation report. So a lot of chapters will use this designation report to see maybe who in the last quarter has received designations so they can recognize them on social media or in their publications or something like that. Some chapters also, like at the end of the year, whenever they do their galas or award ceremonies, will recognize those new designees as well. So this is a great report to use for that. Not only can you use it for that, but maybe you are looking for a PCAM speaker for one of your educational events. This will also help you find that as well. So I'm going to share my screen again. Go into chapter reports and then to live reports. And we're going to open up this designation report here. So there's a couple ways you can use this. If you want to see anyone in your chapter who has a designation, you can go to all, or you can pick, the different types of designations and you can click on go. You don't have to put in a date parameter. So it's going to return to you anyone who has that designation. You can also do, if you want to see in a quarter who's received it, you can put in here a date time frame. So 1/1/2022 to 3/31/2022, and it'll return to you who received the designations in that time frame. I'm going to share with you this report here so you can see what it looks like. This is very self-explanatory. It has all of their information. It also has their award date. So you may want to see who's had their PCAM the longest in your chapter, who's been the reserve specialist the longest. You can see when it was awarded. You can see when their recertification date is. So you may have someone call the chapter and ask when their recertification date is. You can share that with them, or you can point them to our education team as well. Are there any questions about this report? Does anyone use this report? Amy, I love it. She says that they recognize new members. So in the new member report, when we get to that, and I think this is a great opportunity to recognize your members as well. All right, so that is the designation report. Next, we are going to go to the expired member roster. So this is one of those reports that when Karen sends out the email that you're going to want to pull, because you're going to want to get a snapshot of your members for that month. So I'm going, even though the drop process has already happened, and so May expiring members have dropped off this, I'm going to go ahead and pull it for May. You can pull this for any date time frame. I would just recommend that you don't go further than a year out. So maybe you want to see who is expired since January. You can definitely put in here 1/1/2022 to today's date, and it will return anyone who's expired. And if they've renewed or rejoined, then they will fall off that list. So these are only the ones who are still expired in your chapter. So this report, again, is very self-explanatory. It's going to have all of the same information that like your full roster would have. It's just going to have everyone who's expired. So Gold Coast only has 3 who are still expired. And you may want to share this with your membership committee so that they can do outreach, or, you know, a lot of times the chapters, we recommend they use this for about to expire contacts. So maybe a couple weeks before the month's ending, you want to look up who's going to expire at the end of the month and reach out to them. Any questions or anything from my team that I've missed on the expired member report?
Sorry, this is Rachel. My camera's not working for some reason.
That's okay.
But I just have a quick question on the expired. Sometimes I'll email them from these reports and they'll say, oh, like it already got paid. Like, when does the cutoff happen? Because we, you know, obviously we, you know, you need to compile the reports, so we don't get them until like a couple days into the next month. So could they have just like gotten it at the beginning to renew of the next month?
So whenever we receive it, it goes directly in here. I would venture to say some of those people that you're talking about probably sent checks, which definitely takes a while. So if they've renewed online, it'll be automatically in here. And whenever they process the payment, it will go in as well. Now anything that comes in, correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, but anything that comes in for that month will count towards that month, even if it's put in maybe the 1st or 2nd of the following month. It will be included in May, for instance.
That's correct. That's why we close out the month several days into the next month so that we can ensure that we get everything in that came in for the month we're closing out. So that's correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Rachel?
Yep, thanks.
Great. Any other questions on the expired member report?
I have a question. This is Leslie in North Carolina.
Leslie.
Because I know that y'all are so robust in getting out in front of renewal dates and all that with reminders and, you know, and all that, which is great. What I'm not as well informed about is on the back end, like once somebody, you know, gets cut off. In your example, Emily, somebody that was a May 31st and now they've been cut off. Are they told, I'm sure they're told, you know, it's coming up. Then are they informed anything officially that it's happened, the axe has dropped, you're out of the club, come back? Or I mean, what happens after the official drop date?
I'll let Karen answer that question.
I was waiting for that. Yeah. So what we do is 30 days after expiration, we send them an email that's saying, we miss you, we want you back. And then 60, if then for the folks that still don't renew, 60 days out, they then get pulled, and we have a retention call company that calls them and does outreach. And a lot of times we get a lot of them back that way. You know, sometimes it's the wrong contacts. They give us new contacts. They give us new information. So there is outreach, and every expired member is contacted by our retention call company. And a lot of times after we send that email, after that first 30 days, it's like, oh, ding, ding. And then, you know, things start coming in. That's why we wait 60 days, Leslie, so that, you know, payments can come in if they forgot and things of that nature.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Great questions. Any other questions on the expired report or anything that has to do with that? All right, let's keep moving along here. So the next report we're going to look at, and I'm actually not going to pull up all these reports unless you have a specific question, but I do want to touch on this. This is a question that we get a lot. Who is going to show up on my rejoined report versus my renew report? And the answer is if it is before their expiration date, because you know we start sending renewal notifications 90 days before the date that they expire. So they will be included on that renewal date, renew report, if they renewed before they expire. If they do not, and they're rejoining, say 2-3 months down, they will be included in the rejoin report. And if it's after a year, they are going to be considered as new members.
This is Caitlin in Georgia. So let's say somebody switches companies, like a manager, for example. What report would they show up on if if a manager went from like CMA to First Service? How do we find that out if they've only contacted National?
That's a great question. So Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would be looking for their change on this member contact information changes report.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes. Is where I'd be looking for that. So it's any organization change that they have is going to show up on that report. Because technically, maybe they're just changing their affiliation with the organization, but their membership didn't change, so they're not considered a new member or expired. They're just changing their company. Does that answer your question, Caitlin?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to go back to this full chapter roster here.
Before we do that, we do have one more question that was put into the chat. In the rejoin and renew reports, sometimes the rejoin date isn't always within the time period that's searched. Why is that? And this is from Amanda. And so, Amanda, if you want to clarify that, if you want to come off mute.
Yeah, that would be great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I feel like, and I'm not positive, but I think I've run a report, say for the month of May. And so if I run it from May 1st to May 31st, I'll notice that on the far column that says rejoin date, it doesn't always, it'll have a different month listed.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it would do that. If it does it again, pull that report and send it to us so we can take a look at it during that moment in time. Okay. But I'm going to pull this one and see if I can capture what you're talking about and see if it's on here.
Okay.
And can any of you think of a reason it may do that? I can't. But anything, and that goes with any of these reports. If you pull them and there's a question right then, the best thing to do is save that document and send it right over to us. You can send it to me, and then if I don't know the answer, I'll get all my the people who know way more than me to do so. But let's see. So here it looks like the rejoin date is
Yeah.
May for all of these. So yeah, so that may have been an outlier
Okay.
for that. So just make sure you send that to us if you capture it again.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly. If anyone sees anything like that, please, we need to know, because sometimes the report, you know, has an issue, and we just have to go in and redo it a little bit. So, and you all are in these reports a lot more than we are. So please let us know if you see anything that looks out of the ordinary.
Okay.
So that we. Thank you.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to reach out, and don't think that someone probably already reached out about that, because that's not always the case. So be sure you share anything with us, because like Karen said, we don't know if you all don't tell us. So great question. Any other questions before I move on to the full chapter roster? All right, so the way that I typically pull this full roster is that I pull it for the end of the month, so that I capture anyone who has that expiration date. So for June, I'm embarrassed to say I had to look at how many days were in June. So I'm going to pull up, I'm putting in the expiration date of 6/30/2022 and pulling up the full roster. Again, this is the one that you will want to pull. All of those that I just mentioned, you'll want to pull whenever Karen says to pull these. And you'll want to use the first date of the month to your last date for the other ones, and then the end of the month for this one. Some of the things that I want to point out on this report are that we've recently added a billing contact for this. So we had chapters ask for that. So if you can find that on here as well. We've also added, I'm going to go to the end here. We've added a place for the annual meeting month. So if this is a homeowners association, condo association, it will have the date of their annual meeting. And you may want to reach out to them, knowing that they've had elections, to see if they've had any changes to this. Because again, you know these associations, and it's likely that you can get that information. When you do, be sure that you share it with us through address changes, or have them reach out and share it with us as well. The other thing is there's an membership auto renew column here now. If they are signed up for auto renew, there'll be an asterisk in here, so you'll know that as well. I know some of the chapters have asked questions about that. Are there any questions on this full roster? Again, go ahead, Kate. Is that Caitlin?
This was Leslie again.
Hey, Leslie.
Is this the time or place to ask about a field being added to the membership application so that it would show up in this report?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that we struggle with post-COVID, which we did before, but even more so now, is that we don't know from the membership application where a certain manager lives or works. Because if for example, the company is headquartered in Charlotte, then whoever signs those managers up, whether it's themselves, the manager himself or herself, or somebody else, they are inclined to put the company headquarters city. And therefore, we don't know who we should be inviting for an event that's 3 or 4 hours away, because we don't have any way of learning that. Now we try. But if it were there from the beginning, it would be really great. And I realize that's starting from scratch, and we have the existing members to deal with, but especially when they're not even at a local office. The local offices may have closed, or they never go into the local office anymore, wherever it was. So we, on our profile form, we say manager's primary work city, and that's enough for us to know roughly where they are in the state. Because we don't really care where they live, we care where they consider their place of work. And I don't, unless there's something else that I'm not aware of that comes, to you guys that we could be using to help with that. The application is the only thing I can think of, but maybe that's just a failure of imagination on my part.
So you're talking about homeowner leaders, right?
No, I'm talking about managers.
You are talking about managers. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, homeowners are pretty easy. They're all in one place. But
Right.
a management company that is, you know, in multiple markets, it doesn't help me to put down the HQ city.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, so I'm not sure that we collect that information on our membership applications. Karen,
I'm looking now. I'm
looking
now at the manager. Hold on for a minute. I thought we had that on there at one time. Let's see.
Yeah. So we can definitely, well, Karen's looking at that. Good question.
Yeah. So on the manager application, we ask them for their organization, and then for their address, we ask them to select business or home address as primary.
Right, but that's just asking them which one they want. It doesn't tell you, you know, they're going to put their corporate HQ address because that's where the bill goes.
Not all the time, because our management companies, not all of them pay for their managers.
Right. I realize it's not 100%, but it's
right.
It's really a challenge for us to know who should be considered a member of which market. And I realize that that's not a issue that many chapters have, but for those that are covering many markets in a state, it's a real gap for us.
No, I understand.
We can definitely talk about it and see if it's something that would make sense on there. I wrote it down for sure, and I know Karen did too.
Yeah. So. No, it's a good point, Leslie. Thank you.
Any other questions about this full roster?
Yeah, I have a question. It's Caitlin again. Sorry.
That's okay.
So, okay, we kind of to that point, but a little different. Like our multi-chapter members, which for us are mostly business partners. If I understand correctly, we only get, if they're a multi-chapter, if like we're their home base, right? And then if they are a multi-chapter in, let's say like Tennessee, for example, we just get them on our reports as a BP. Is that right? If you can follow that.
So you're saying that you wouldn't have a way to know what other chapters they're members of. You just have them on your report as a business partner. That's what you're asking?
Yeah, more so just because we have so many of our members. I mean, I think and a lot of them are on boards of different chapters just because we are so close to other chapters. It's like, we just don't know how many multi-chapter business partners we have. And we want to just be really cognizant of that to be able to like share our event calendar with like our neighboring states and chapters. You know, just so we don't plan anything on one of their big events or vice versa.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think the way the report's set up is that if you're their prime, you are correct. And you and I have talked about this before, I know, and for those of you that have this question too, if you are their primary chapter, and I brought this back up, it's going to say business partner. If you are added, and like if you are one of their additional multi-chapters, you're going to have the multi-chapter membership here. Does that make sense? It'll say CHMBP.
Yeah, I guess more so of just to know, yeah, I guess if they're in like multiple chapters, and I don't know if this makes sense too from a national standpoint, but obviously they're paying more money to want to have that big of a reach. But how our like online directory works, if they are like a national chapter and a multi-chapter, they get listed twice of who their like contact would be with you, and then whoever their contact person here. So we kind of provide that as a perk, sort of to encourage them to join other chapters just because they have bigger teams and whatnot. But anyway, I was just wondering if there was like I wanted to make sure I was understanding that right. And then also, I don't know if that's just us or if other people are also dealing with that to try to help out a little bit too.
I definitely understand. Go ahead, Karen.
Caitlin, I hear exactly what you're saying. With our membership rosters, only folks that are members in your chapter are going to appear on your roster. If you want to coordinate with other chapters, I know there are some states, Virginia does it, and I know other states do it, to kind of, when there's a lot of chapters in very close proximity, to kind of meeting and kind of going over your events calendar so that you're not stepping on, you're not scheduling events at the same time. I know Liz is shaking her head. That's what I would recommend for that. Because it's just, we don't want to include other chapters member data in another chapters because it becomes too confusing, and that member is just paying for benefits in that specific chapter. So that's what I would recommend, is just maybe coordinating, having, in the early part of the year, whenever, or just via email, when are you having your events, so that you try as hard, as much as you can, as to not overlap on days that you're scheduling things.
All right. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't the answer that Caitlin wanted, but I wanted to explain why we do it that way.
Yeah, and Caitlin,
that makes perfect. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Emily.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that part I totally get. I think it was more of like a lot of times, like we have somebody who's physically at every single one of our events who's going to be the board president of a different chapter. So he was, and we try to share with, whoever, and I mean, our surrounding chapters are great too. But I think it's more of just like a benefit for them and for us to know that they are multi-chapter, to also, recognize them a little bit more, since they are paying for different levels, I guess, of it. And I just wanted to make sure we were capturing that, because some of it we definitely get. Same with like national partners, we always reach out to see if they have like a local person to make sure that they get into our system and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I definitely see the need for wanting them to get that recognition. And if you have any questions, individually about certain members, definitely reach out and we can help you. Unfortunately, there's just not a way we can, show that on the reports, but you feel free to reach out and we can definitely help you determine which of those are multi-chapter members.
And I also think there are chapters that coordinate as to whether or not they will, about working with, say, a Tennessee chapter's member goes to the Alabama chapter, about whether or not they would honor that. So, but you have to be mindful that, folks are paying dues to be in a chapter. And if they're going to another chapter that they have not purchased a membership in a multi-chapter, they should be spending, they should be charged the non-member rate, because they are not a member of that chapter. So just be very mindful of that, and then to be in fairness to members that have paid to participate in one chapter, two chapter, three chapters, as far as allowing them to come into another chapter and be given the member rate, because there's just fairness there. So just keep that in mind too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple questions I'd like to go back to in the chat as well. Liz was asking about the county where the member is located. I wrote that down for us to look at and see if that's a possibility. And then Cheryl's question, can it be mandatory for a business partner to fill in the org service category? Sometimes they're left blank.
I did just check that within our system. If they register online, it is mandatory that they select that. But if we get the paper form, again, with a paper handwritten form in the mail, nothing can be mandatory, right? So if they leave that blank, I believe we have potentially someone following up about that. But again, if we don't get that response, we still process their membership. We still, want to make sure they're getting those benefits. So if you see any of those blank, again, if you have that information, please make sure you provide it to us so that we can update their records then, so that moving forward, it is in their records.
Exactly. Yeah. And if someone can drop in the chat the email address to do that, addresschanges@caionline.org. And I'm seeing some other things in the chat about maybe not having the correct contact and things like that. A lot of times the company or manager is going to go directly to the chapter to let you know of the information, contact information change, because they're most familiar with you. So if you get one of those, either point them to us to make sure, but a lot of you will go ahead and send those changes to addresschanges@caionline.org. And that's super helpful for us to share that information back and forth.
Emily, can I go back to Leslie's request about the county?
Sure.
Well,
I can look into that because
my request, just to be clear, was about the manager's primary work location.
Oh, I thought it was you. I thought, okay.
Liz, it was
Liz had a question.
Oh, Liz, I'm sorry. I'm scrolling too fast, Liz. I'm sorry. Part of our address validation process, Liz, is we do get the county information. It populates it. So let's see. Yeah, we do. That's part. But now I don't know if we can drag that field into the roster, but I can look into that for you. But we do capture that.
But
that would be fabulous, just because sometimes we will have a targeted email that we want to send out to like a certain county or certain counties, and we want to leave the rest of the membership out, and just having that makes it easy.
Yeah, let me look into seeing if we can pull that in for you, because we do capture it. Yeah,
that would be awesome. Thank you.
And that would scratch the itch that I'm describing too, Karen.
That's what I was thinking, Leslie. Yeah.
Yeah. If it made clear that we're not looking for the headquarters city, we're looking for you as the primarily manager, your primary work county or city.
Well, this is going to be the county of the address they provide, because that's the only information that we collect, because it's, again, we validate the address using the county. So it would be the county for the address they provide.
Yeah, I retract that scratching my itch.
I just want to be sure. All right. Okay. Any other questions about this full roster?
I will tell you, I use this all the time.
Yes.
It's, multiple times a week.
Yes.
Oh, that's what I'm sorry, Emily, I'm being a pain here.
No, you're not. No, go for it.
Sometimes we get inquiries about someone is missing from their roster. And many times I'll pull the roster and that individual is on the roster. And that's because you may be using your end of month roster where you pulled, but just a reminder that people are joining all the time. So if you're, maybe once a week, you want to just go in, you can pull these reports whenever you want, and then pull that full roster and to see, because a lot of times I'll say, what date parameter are you pulling on? And I just know right away, because I can see when the join date is. So, and I encourage you to pull the full roster more than just one time at the end of the month. I know many of you do, but if you don't, it might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. I know, like the Georgia chapter, I think you guys pull every Monday for your reports. Other chapters, I know you pull every other week. And I would definitely recommend that. So, because people don't like to wait a month to get that welcome email or to get in your email system. A lot of times they're signing up because they want to attend an event or something like that. So I think pulling that more often is a great tip, Karen.
Oh, wait, sorry. I have a question now then. I thought that, so I guess I understood this wrong. So I thought the new member roster, it wouldn't continually update throughout the month.
It does. Any of these live reports that you pull have real-time data.
Yep.
Yep. So you can pull your full roster. Any of the new members will be on there, or you can pull your new member report if that's easier to see who those new members are.
Oh, okay. So the only reports that are the stagnant ones are the non-live reports. That is so weird, because I could have sworn I remembered saying that it wouldn't update if I pulled it. Someone told me that years ago. Well, now I know. Thank you.
Who knows? Maybe it was me. I learned something new about reports every day. All right. Okay, let's keep going because we do have a couple. I want to be mindful of time, and we have a couple that we really want to touch on, some new things that we're going to. Oh, I'm so glad I made your day, Rachel. That's great news. And so, yeah, go ahead, Leslie. I see you raising your hand.
Were you moving on to Recruiter where I saw your mouse?
Yes.
I just asked a question. You don't have to show anything. Should these two report segments that I'm going to mention match exactly? The new member report with the same with X date parameter. And if you run the full roster report and sort it by join date using the same start date, should those be identical?
You're using the join date, the expiration date and the join date are
no expiration date, just
okay.
Let's say I was going to run it for since May 15th.
Okay.
Then new members since May 15th, I would use that date on the new member roster. Okay. Then if I also looked at today's June 14th full roster, but sorted it by join date and looked back at May 15th, should those be identical lists?
That's a great question, Leslie. And I'm going to answer your question. And I don't know if this will fully answer it, but this is something that when I get this question, I go back to Young, who does all of our reports, and say, okay, what parameters are these reports pulling? And the reason that your reports don't always match across all of them is because sometimes they're pulling from different data. So, for instance, some of the reports are pulling from a join date, and then some of are pulling from like an expiration date. So in your example, the full roster, okay, I'm going to get this wrong. Karen, you want to jump in? You know where I'm going with this. It's so complicated.
The full roster is pulling from the membership expiration date. So it's always going to be that end the last day of the month.
Right. Your new members are pulling from the join date.
Correct.
When they joined.
When they join.
So if we, for example, every other, in our newsletter, we always say, here's, welcome these newest members. Mm-hmm. And then Amy runs a report and, we go back and forth because I'll go, what about this person? And she'll say, well, I use the new member report. And I go, but if I look at the full roster or vice versa, whichever one does what, then we should really probably get married to always running just the new member report, if that's our purpose, to recognize the people who have joined since the last newsletter, as opposed to the full. Is that what I'm hearing, Karen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's my recommendation. Yes.
Agreed. All right, and let me move on to the recruiter roster. We can come back to these questions. So this recruiter roster, a lot of times people will use this for different membership recruitment campaigns. And this report is only as good as the information shared. So a lot of times I say that because a lot of times our members don't share who recruited them. So if you're doing a membership campaign, really encourage them to include that recruiter's name so that it will show up on here. So I pulled this. Ooh, the Gold Coast chapter, their members are doing pretty good with that. So this is going to show the person who is doing the recruiting. So in this case, it's Leslie, and it's going to show all the members she's recruited. So they will be listed here. So say you want to give points for the number of members recruited, it will be here. If you have someone that says, hey, I recruited this person and they didn't include my name, just reach out to customer service and they'll be glad to add that information in the database. Because I know Karen goes by this for like Recruiter Club, Recruiter of the Year, and things like that. So this is the same type of data she's pulling for that.
And I get this question sometimes about recruiters and new members. In order to get recruiter credit, the membership has to be brand new, not a rejoin. And I also get asked sometimes, well, I got 4 more board members on, does that count? No, because it's an existing membership already. So the membership has to be brand new on the books for a recruiter to get credit.
Sorry, I have a question about that. So
Go ahead.
I looked at the membership form. So I recently had this happen where a manager signed up a board, right? Is there a recruiter like box, or is it just the person who signs them up?
There is on the application a spot to list the recruiter, like who recruited that membership.
Okay. Maybe I just can't find
Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I couldn't find was on
It's-
the actual physical PDF form. 'Cause
It's on the bottom. It says, did someone recommend that you join CAI? Please give their name and organization. And that's when we enter that into the record as the recruiter.
Okay, so it's not just if a manager signs a board, it's not just automatically.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
And then it also asks the same question when they sign up online as well.
Correct.
It'll ask that.
That's correct.
All right, so that is definitely a useful report, one that I used at the chapter all the time. The next one is this member contact information changes. So a lot of you update your databases or your email lists different ways. Some of you just directly upload the full roster. Some of you pull this report and make the changes. So I'm going to pull this one for 6/1 to today to see what changes are on here. Now we've had some of the chapters reach out and say that there's some duplicates on here, and I want to show you that, but we're working on that to see if we can just get it. Kelly's saying that our website might be down. So she said she's having a hard time getting on there. So let me see what this is going to do. I went back and forth. Should I pull these ahead of time? Should I not? I just wanted to see. All right, let me go back and try again. Do you guys use this member change report? Do any of you all use that? Member contact information change? Yes, Leslie, you're shaking your head. Do you pull it monthly and update the information from that? Yes, good.
And Emily, I think there's also a column on the full roster too that says address change date.
It does
as well.
Yes.
And so if you look at that column, that will give you a heads up that there's been a change.
Isn't that only for addresses, Karen?
Yes, but I just want to make you aware that so that it's in there too for the address as well.
For that report, the info changes, is there a way to see if the information change is coming from us versus you guys were, contacted with it? Just because I noticed it is a lot of information on it. And so if it's something that I've already entered and sent to address changes, that would save me time to not have to look back over that.
It doesn't. No, there's not a way to notate that. It would just be if there was a change made.
Okay, there's no way to add that.
No,
Okay.
Unfortunately not. I'm sorry, because that one's gonna just pull if there's a change. There's no, it's because we don't keep up with if the change came from you or if they contacted us directly.
Okay.
So yeah. So I think that must be down because I'm not able to pull reports anymore. But I do want to touch on the educated business partner roster and the board leader certificate roster. Again, those are similar to our designation report in that you can put in no date parameter and pull everyone who has received that designation, or you can put in the date parameter. So same type of thing for that. We are also looking at, what we changed on that report, specifically the educated business partner roster, is we were hearing from chapters that say there was a national corporate member that maybe they had 3 people that attend chapter events and are a part of the chapter, but only one of those business partners was showing up. And we changed it that anyone that is associated with your chapter as an affiliate with your chapter will show up on that report, on the educated business partner. So you may have 3 people from Alliance Bank, Alliance Association Bank, for instance. So we made that to where that was a little more accurate, because we were definitely hearing from you all about that. The other thing, go ahead.
Really quick, and on that note, as you guys are holding those classes locally, I know more and more in-person events are happening, and this is the same with the homeowner leader course. Please make sure we get those lists so we can update that within our system for both the educated business partner and the homeowner education course.
Yes. Definitely. And then I do want to touch on a report that you're going to see coming soon. And this is the affiliate roster. So some of you are like, what's an affiliate? Well, this is someone, say you have a business partner and their main contact is on your roster. Well, they want to have additional people who are able to attend events that headquarters does, who are able to get access to our online resources. So they have a login for the website. And so this is a report that you will be able to see those people that we have listed as affiliates. We're going to make it to where it's a live report so that you can pull it at any time, and it should be up within the next couple weeks. Now, I will say this. With the affiliates especially, the chapter most always has the most up-to-date information. So when you see these reports, you may say, so-and-so hasn't been with that company for years and years and years. Okay, we would love to know that. And so we'll make sure we include this information, but you'll submit that information to the Address Changes website, any changes that should be made so that we could get that updated. And then another side note is not all of your business partners who attend your meetings need to be on that affiliate roster. This is only going to be if they want to attend events headquarters is doing or receive like online access to be able to see the publications online and things like that. So don't worry, don't stress if you have more business partners in your database than we have on that affiliate report. But we do have several chapters asking for it. And I know that we've shared it on a case-by-case basis if you've asked for it, but we're going to go ahead and start sharing that with you as well. So you can see that coming. Any questions on that, the affiliate report?
Can I say, here I go again. Can I say one thing?
Yes, please. Absolutely.
For the affiliates, affiliate members are not included in our overall member count because they are not dues paying members. So we have no requirements for chapters to provide certain types of benefits to them because they're not paying members. Some chapters just opted to do electronic benefits. However, if they are an affiliate, they will receive member rates. So again, it's really up to the chapter as to how you want to, what benefits you want to provide to them. Maybe you don't want to do mailings to them because that's a cost factor for the chapter, and an affiliate is, basically not a paying member, if you will. So I just wanted to lay that couple of things out there to kind of put some context to them.
The last thing is Kelly is going to show another coming soon report, and this is the chapter snapshot report.
All right, so this is a new report that will be coming starting next month. This is going to be a PDF report, so it will not be a live report. It will not be on demand. This is one of those reports that you should be downloading every month with your other PDF reports. So this is our chapter snapshot. What this is giving you is number data by member type for your chapter. And so this is just an example from the Alabama chapter of what this will look like. Only the member types that you have members in will show up on this report. So for example, if a chapter did not have any chapter management, they would not show up on this line would not be on this report. And this is just a quick snapshot to give you numbers for that month in time. So for example, new members, these are the new members that came in for the month of May. The renewals and rejoins, which again, Emily went through which each of those categories are. Again, renewals are before expiration, rejoin are after they've already expired. The number that you're seeing here in the number build is a number that you don't have on any of your other reports. So this is the number of members within that category that have been billed to expire that month. So anyone expiring in May would have been shown up on this build list. This is a number that some chapters have been saying they want to track their own retention rates. And this is that missing number. So this is the report that you'll use if you are wanting to look at your monthly retention. We will be sending out when we notify you and adding this to the reports FAQ page of how to calculate retention if you want to do that. You do not have to do that with your chapters, but some are asking. So how we get the retention percentage is we take the renewal plus the rejoin and divide it by the number billed. We do recommend that if you are looking at retention to look at it over a period of time, not just one individual month. So for example, when we were talking about when we receive payments and how those are allocated, you might have a month that's really low in your retention rate because their check wasn't received until 2 days after the new month. They will show up as a rejoin in that following month. So you might have a month of 50% retention and the next month you might have 130% retention. So that's why we do recommend looking over, at least a 3-month period of time, if not longer. This active column, this is the total number of members you have within your chapter for each of the categories with your total here at the bottom. Month is the month that it's referencing and the year that it's referencing. So when you save these reports, it will be easy to see that when you open this up. Again, this will be a PDF report as this snapshot. These are the numbers that we're using to track growth, retention. So we just wanted to be completely open with you guys of what numbers we're using for your chapter. So again, you will start to see these on the PDFs of your pages, of your reports page starting in July.
Thank you, Kelly. And
Kelly, could you hit me one more time with the retention? It's
yes.
The rejoin.
So it's the total renewed plus the total rejoin divided by the number billed, and that will give you that month's retention. I would also like to mention that with this report, some of the numbers might not match the other reports, just like how Emily noted that each of the reports pulls something different. And I'm going to use the example of your rebate report. When a person renews, you get the rebate when we get the money in. So if a person was expiring in May and they received their renewal notice and paid it in March, you are going to get the rebate in March. But we are not going to count them as renewed until the month of May when they were planning to expire, because their renewal is going to, we want it to match when it was billed. So again, some of these numbers might not match with those other reports, and that is perfectly fine. This report is providing information to you for specifically that month of time in May. So, or June or July of whenever the report is. So I just wanted to clarify that these numbers will not match your other reports.
Thank you, Kelly. And we will add, Kelly mentioned the frequently asked questions, and this is a document that we've been adding to here recently. So I will make sure I share this with you. The information that Kelly described will be added in here, as well as some of the questions you all asked, because they were really great questions. So we will be sure to share these frequently asked questions, as well as the acronym cheat sheet whenever we share the recording of this presentation as well. So I know we've gone a little bit over our time, but I think that this time was beneficial. I loved Rainey's comment. I wish I would have known some of this stuff before. So I love that you guys are learning new things. But are there any parting questions or comments that you all have? All right. Well, thank you again for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions about reports, feel free to reach out to myself. And if I don't know the answer, I will engage the rest of our team to find out for you. But we hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.